You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we will be talking IPL mini auction. We've got a three-part show. We're going to be running through every team in the IPL, talking about who they need, why they need them. We're going to be doing a most wanted segment with a backing track, which I'm very excited for. There's nothing like recording one of your probably most listened to shows of the year and doing something you've never done before. So that's good. We've got a whole load of questions, and we'll be making some predictions, probably in that order. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How you doing, Ross? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I'm absolutely buzzing. I love covering the IPL, and the auction is it's a magical time. And this one falling just before Christmas is it's a Christmas miracle for me, as it gives me something to do other than spend time with my family.
And we're joined by Max. Do you hate your family?
No, I quite like my family, but I'm not at their house yet, so I'm just avoiding my partner instead while she writes some poems for people.
Oh wow!
Oh right, I didn't know she was a poet.
She's not, so that's going to be interesting.
Okay, well, could you get her to write us a poem for our next show?
I can ask. I would imagine she will not.
Okay. All right. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, it's like, subscribe as usual. If you're not watching on YouTube, do whatever on Spotify or iTunes. Leave us a review. We want to get like a bazillion reviews, all 5-star. And we're on Patreon, patreon.com/the cricket pod. The perfect thing to buy yourself for Christmas.
Yeah, that is true.
We'd all agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to talk through all 10 teams in the IPL. I don't know if we've got a particular order for this, so it could be like just random. We're going to tell you what we think they need, whether they'll be a big player, and maybe also where it could go wrong for them on the big day on Friday. Ross, you seem most excited about the IPL, so why don't you kick us off with a team of your choosing? And then we'll go Max, then we'll go me, and we'll go in a rotation like that.
Well, why don't we do reverse order of standings? Because that does that anyway.
It's going to be random. Ross.
All right, I'm going to start with Ahmed Bad Boys and Gujarat Titans.
Brilliant.
So when I looked through their team and thinking about what their auction strategy has typically been, I think they're going to be one of those teams that's really impacted by where the set list comes out and who they actually going to do it. They've not got loads of money to work with, just over 19 crore. I think their big priorities are power play intent for the champs and probably another pacer to replace Lockie, who they managed to shift onto KKR for his 10 crore a season deal. Likely targets need lots. They've not got actually many slots to actually play with. I think it's 7 in total, 3 overseas. So I can see these being one of the teams who are seriously after Agarwal, because I think that would solve some of their problems at the top or strengthen what they've got. And then from an overseas player Pacers perspective, Reece Topley could well be someone here. Luke Wood, I thought, as well, in that space, who impressed last year. And then maybe this is where Chris Jordan somehow ends up, because Chris Jordan loves popping up. And then the other stuff is around domestic pacers, Sandeep Sharma, Shivan Mavi, maybe the return of Basil Kampi, you never know. But that's where I think they're going. So opening batsman with a bit of intent, Agarwal from a domestic point of view, maybe kind of someone like Phil Salt or Riley Russo, and then the pacers that I mentioned.
If it goes wrong for them, where's it going to go wrong?
So I think they've got a pretty okay team. I think if over a longer season last year, they might have been found out a little bit. I think a lot of their players performed over and above kind of their expected wickets, expected runs, overall expected performance. So I think if they don't sort out that top order, then they're going to be stuck with Riddiman Saha being kind of their main person. And that's not really what you want.
Rashid Khan basically turned into the world's best finisher last year.
And whilst they had Twatty at the other end.
It was mental. I want more of that.
That was pretty nuts. Cool. I think that's Gujarat down. We'll talk about where they could be making plays, I guess, later on when we go through the first 5 pots. Max, on to you.
Yeah, well, I'm going CSK. Start with my boys. My boys in yellow, straight in there. They also have 7 slots available, as with the Ahmedabad boys, and 2 overseas slots, and a purse of 20.45 crore available. So the big news from them in the releases was they got rid of DJ Bravo, they got rid of Chris Jordan, they got rid of Adam Milne, but Jadeja was staying. So spin's covered. That's all good. What they're really lacking is experienced pace to back up Deepak Chahar, and they also have virtually no death bowling whatsoever. And they could potentially use another batter now that Uthappa's retired. So an extra probably spot in there to look for, although likely local talent. So targets wise, they've got room in the first team for an overseas player to upgrade on Pretorius, for example, or a high quality seamer, or if they're lucky, they could get both. But I think one of those will be what they go down, and they'll probably punt money to try and do that. Alternatively, they could just go and try and get Sam Curran to get the old gang back together, because who's not going to be trying to get Sam Curran at this auction? We know how it all works. But they may get priced out and have to settle for Tom. So that's where it could go a bit wrong for them. In all seriousness, though, I think Jai Richardson could be a decent pick, because
it's not very sexy, is it?
It's not, but it's death bowling, and it's an option. I think actual pace is needed, really. So you've got Deepak Chahar for the power play. There's some young and up and coming guys, of course, but they need, I think, some star quality in the pace area. So that's where they will likely go. They also weirdly ditched Jagadisan, even though he cost 20 lakhs. So they might need another keeper as well.
He's not going to cost 20 lakh this time.
No, they could use Conway, but yeah, that was a bit of a strange one. But let's be honest, after all this, they're probably just going to try and buy DJ Bravo back on the cheap, because
he's retired.
He's retired.
Oh, he's retired. He has. Well, they're stuffed then, aren't they? That's where it's going on.
You've got to stay with the news cycle.
Sorry. It's too much going on.
Where could it go wrong for them, Max? What's the big area of weakness? Where can you see a fuck up happening?
I reckon they might try and buy Jason Holder or something weird.
Okay. Yeah, I can see a Holder. I think that they haven't got as much money as they think they have. That's where I think it'll go wrong for them. They'll end up having to buy players that they don't really want, unless they're incredibly lucky with the pot lot order.
Yeah,
pot lot order, set lot order,
with everyone blowing their load before them, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Shall I do a team?
Yeah,
I'm going to do a boring team. Not historically boring, but in this auction round, I think Royal Challengers Bangalore. I think there'll be a team not to watch out for in this auction, and that's basically because uncharacteristically they've decided that their team is good enough, and they're going to go for stability. The actual question that they'll need to answer will be on the pitch later in the year, or later next year, when we find out whether Faf is past it, whether Maxwell is going to be fit on time, and whether Kohli 2.0 can bring some of his better form to the IPL. We don't know that. They've not given themselves much room to buy a backup for any of those players, so they're kind of locked in. I suspect they will. I said they haven't given themselves enough money to look for a backup for any of those players. High caliber backup is what I mean. I suspect they will look for somebody who could potentially stand in for Maxwell if his broken leg doesn't recover in 3 months. I think we have to say that is a possibility. They don't have a lot of money. That's the problem for them. They've got eight and a bit crore to fill 7 slots. I think a couple of them, 1 or 2 of them, are overseas players, so they might be able to get a bargain there. I also thought for them that Jason Holder might be the top of their range in terms of people that could stand in-ish for Glenn Maxwell. If they
bowls the same.
Well, they don't really need.
Well, Jacks.
They don't really necessarily need. They're not going to get a player who's as good as Glenn Maxwell at batting, but Holder can smash the ball over the fence. That is something he can do, and Holder's bowling, is going to be useful as well. They could get by without Glenn Maxwell. They're actually quite. I think if the Faf du Plessis does anything at all, they'd probably be okay. And Hazelwood, Siraj, Harshal Patel, Hasaranga is you've already got those 4 bowlers, so you're in pretty good shape. And if they can find an overseas bat to come in for Maxwell, especially if they can bowl a couple of overs, they'll be okay.
Could it be Could it be a place for Ben Stokes, Jack?
Could be. I'd be a bit surprised. I think Ben Stokes would probably go for more money than Holder.
No, is it more the Shakib Al Hassan or Sikandar Raza type?
It's got to be Will Jacks. It's got to be Will Jacks.
I've seen
Off-spin in the
Will
power play.
Will Jacks, I'll tell you what would be a great choice. I've heard people, when I was doing research, Sikandar Raza kept coming up. I think Will Jacks would be a great choice. I think, will they go for him? Probably not.
I reckon he could be
probably
cheap,
get Shakib. So yeah, where could it go wrong for them? Well, uncharacteristically, they've gambled on stability in an auction where they have some. Well, they maybe want a little bit more room for manoeuvre. So we will see. We'll see how that goes for them.
Yeah,
Ross.
Okay, I'm going to go to Delhi next, if that's okay with you guys. They've got just 19.45 crore, and they've got 5 available slots, and they're pretty steady, right? I think their normal auction strategy is being pretty good, build a good domestic base, but as they've got Ricky Ponting as coach, they've got a bit of an Australian flavour to them, and I think that could influence what they do in the market. Priority wise, power hitter, preferably a better all-rounder, probably in that space. I mean, we've talked about Rodman Powell's limitations in this lineup. David Warner has struggled with fitness over the last kind of couple of years. So having some backup for him would be useful. And they got rid of KS Bharat back into the player pool. And so they need a keeper for Rishabh Pant. Likely target, I think this is Cameron Green town. I think this is where they're likely to try and do it. I think that would be an error. Yeah, I think it'd be an error. I don't think he's not a proven quantity. He's had a couple of okay seasons, but his T20 record's not brilliant. But I think 2 better targets for them would actually be going back to the well for Sam Curran, who was actually really good in the 100 this year. Fair to say, I was having a bit of a break from cricket.
I'm not buying that.
Or Daniel Sams, who is on my list here. And they might as well punt for Sam Curran, is my view on here. I think he would improve their team, and they've got some money to splash with not many slots available. So I think that would be quite nice.
I think Sam Curran would fit really nicely into Delhi Capitals, but again, it's just a question of
how much loot do they have?
19.45 crore. So
I suppose they don't have loads of positions to fill, do they? Because what did they manage? They shipped Shardul Thakur, and that is it. So they sold a player that might not even be in their best 11 for 10 crore, basically, and they're free rolling. So
exactly. So I think that'd be quite nice. I do think they're unlikely to go for an overseas wicketkeeper, as they've already got a bit of a naff balance when it comes to their overseas. So they're probably going to be in the market for the Jagadishans or Vinos of the world and Barners. And then
Sheldon Jackson.
I hope not. I hope not. Bloody hope not. He was dreadful. But it could also be a place if they want a backup wicketkeeper and a backup to David Warner. Phil Salt fits that bucket. If they want a left-handed opening batsman, then someone like Riley Russo in the first pot that potentially could be relatively cheap, depending on who.
Felipe?
Maybe. So yeah, that's Delhi. I think where it could possibly go wrong. I'm not sure there's too many places it can go wrong for them. I think they've got a pretty strong lineup. But again, it always seems like Delhi are one thing away from giving themselves a really good chance at the title. And so here, they've got the space to manoeuvre, but they've got to use it wisely and not spend their money on Kyle Jamieson 2.0.
Mac Daddy, who are we going to next?
Well, we've had a couple of steady eddies, haven't we? So let's go for the most unsteady eddy I can think of out of the 3 options I have, or 2 now. Punjab Kings.
Yes.
They've got a lot of work to do, and they have 9 slots to fill, 3 overseas slots, and they've got 32 crore to do it with. So they've got a bit of money, but they're facing an uphill battle as far as I can see, because they do not really have, unlike the last 2 teams we've just spoken about, an IPL ready 11 that we can, that they could, if things went wrong, that they could put out and go, you're going to win some games. There are big gaps in there. And despite the fact they've got the 3 overseas slots to fill, the priority is probably local talent, because their overseas slots are likely to be first choice. That is given that Johnny Bairstow recovers from his multiply broken leg and dislocated ankle in time, which, allegedly he will be, but they're going to want a backup for him. So there's some options there, which might not be too expensive. Phil Salt, you mentioned, he's an option, and he can take the gloves as well. So that would be a fairly like-for-like option. Their bowling's pretty solid with sort of the players they've got. They've got Arshdeep, great. Nathan Ellis, also pretty good, especially at the death. So that's not too bad. They've got Rabada. They've got Chahar with a spin. So that's fine. Possibly a bit of a long tail, but not too bad. So yeah, I mean, what they really need is a middle order. They need a local middle order or a number 3.
Well, Sharad Khan,
An
the luckiest
Indian-
man in the world to be retained.
An Indian number 3 so they can play Nathan Ellis, or an Indian pacer so they can play Rajapaksa, or someone better that they buy at the auction. They've got a reasonable amount to spend, but I think where it could go wrong for them is that just because they've got so much to do, and I don't know if what they need is there. And
They released the Pacers, the depth in pace bowling. They just released, right? They got rid of Aurora and a release of Sandeep Sharma. Both not brilliant, but they're okay.
So I mean, they're going to be in the market for some of the youngish Indians, perhaps someone like Sambir Singh or Akash Vashisht. Shivam Mavi will probably be a waste of money because I would expect to be quite expensive, and they've got too much to fill. So I think they've just left themselves with too much to do. And even though there's quite a lot in this mini auction, I'm not sure where it fits. They've just left themselves in an awkward position with the overseas players they've got as well. I can see them really cocking up and getting Manish Pandey.
I think Pandey, I think there's a big chance he goes there. I also think that the talk of the town, Jagadeesan, could end up here. And I think that would be, I'm afraid to say it, a disaster for them. There's no.
Gigi Sharma was fine, wasn't he? Gigi Sharma was absolutely fine for them.
Well, he's still there.
He is still there.
That's what I mean.
I think more with Punjab, it's more about where might it go right for them rather than where might it go wrong for them. Yeah, I'm not bullish, but we will see. It could all come up trumps, but
cool. Right, I'm going to pick a team. Rajasthan Royals. Rajasthan are a really interesting team because they're a deeply flawed side who cover for that flaw with 3 incredibly strong players, Butler, Sampson, and Hetmeyer. Now, my question to you 3 or 2, I asked that to myself there.
There's a little insight into Jack's mind there.
is do we expect Butler, Sampson, and Hetmeyer to be as good as they were last year? Yes or no?
Butler, yes. Sampson, yes. Hetmeyer, no.
Well, if we're taking our conversation we had yesterday,
Butler to have, okay. So what? He's going to get even better.
Yeah, that's what we said yesterday. We said Harry Brook is on a linear trajectory.
Yeah. Butler was better last year than he has been previously, so we should therefore assume he'll be even better next year. Of course,
I think Butler will be. I think he might not be as good, but I think he'll still be obscenely good.
He's not going to be worth 3 normal players. Is my expectation. So I've said no. And I think that means they'll need to go out and get some batting. And I'm not sure that there's loads of options for them to do that. Now, if you look at their team, Butler, Hetmeyer, Bolt are all nailed on to play. Obed McCoy's decent, and they probably need overs from him or an incoming overseas seamer. So they need to find somebody who can bat sort of 6 or 7 from the local market, or an all-rounder who can cover for McCoy's overs. And they don't have enough money to do that. So
how much Kashish have they got?
13.2 crore, which is 1.3 million US, 1.4.
Could it be the return of Carl Jameson?
No. So
Ben Stokes.
Answer. I mean, they might do it. I think Ben Stokes is a possibility that could fit in there. They do have 4 overseas slots, so they could do what they did last year and just buy all of the players that fit the profile and hope that one of them's in form.
They did release all of them.
So I don't know. I think it could be tricky for them. They're a team. What I'm most surprised by is that they didn't release Devdutt Padakal and give themselves just a little bit more room to try and solve this problem. But they didn't. The team's still not awful.
Is it not worth hanging on to him for another year though, and hope that last year was?
I don't think it's necessarily that. It's that they've already got Jaiswal. So how do Padakal, Jaiswal, Sampson, and Butler fit together? They don't really, do they? It's a bit of a weird top 4. Then you've got Hetmeyer, who's going to come in front instead of one of them if the situation dictates anyway. And then like nobody at number 6, like Ashwin or someone at the moment. Rian Parag, one game wonder. So yeah, that's what I think. It could go wrong because they won't be able to. They don't have the bandwidth, if you like, to fix their problem.
And also you talk about Hetmeyer. He's had a great couple of seasons. Could it be someone like, clearly from an English perspective at the moment, kind of maybe a Harry Brook shaped hole that he could come in as a backup in that space, can bat at the top of the order, can bat in the middle order as a finisher.
I mean, it would be good. It would be good. It would feel a bit like a waste to me if Harry Brook ended up here, because I don't see how he can get in the team. I don't think they have enough overseas bowling.
Yeah, agreed.
Enough local bowling to not play somebody who's going to bowl lots of overs.
Yeah.
So that it means probably McCoy has to play, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's interesting. Rajasthan aren't awful, and maybe Butler will be as good as he was last year, and Hetmeyer, maybe he'll be as good as he was last year, in which case he'll probably be fine. But you'd like the insurance of a good number 6, I think, if you were this team.
I pray as a Rajasthan fan they don't pick up Odeer Smith. That's what I'm really praying for.
He could end up here. I think that's the sort of player that might end up
danger zone.
splitting overs with Rian Parag and batting.
Oh God!
Here he comes, the guy with a pina colada in one hand and a grenade in the other. Which one's going to happen today?
Ross, next team.
I'm going to choose Mumbai Indians next.
Yeah.
So they've got 20.5 crore. They had an abysmal season last year, like the worst season they've ever had. And it was down to injuries, really poor auction, blowing all your cash on the rock star that is Ishan Kishan. And they've got some big gaps to fill. One here is around Phil. Is around the spin bowling department. They've never really valued kind of spending a lot of money in the spin department. They've got rid of Murugan Ashwin and Makande as well, which we've had a little bit strange getting rid of Makande. Pace-wise, they've obviously got Jofra, but he's not been fit. He's coming back in January, apparently, in the T20 competition in South Africa. And then Bumrah's been he's got a stress fracture of the back, and Dr. Ganguly can't tell us when he's coming back. So we'll see on that front. And then overseas-wise, they've lost Kieran Pollard. So they'll need to figure out
where do they put him.
I also think, Ross, that Bumrah's stress fracture was downgraded to not a stress fracture.
Oh, that's good news. That is very, very good news. That is very good news.
I might have completely made that up. It's a stress reaction, is what I heard last.
Stress reaction. Available slots, 9. They've got 3 overseas players to fill. I think they're going to be another team that is in for Sam Curran. I just don't understand why you wouldn't go in for him and put your hat in that ring and boost the price for other teams to make it more difficult and hamper other teams when they're trying to pick up other players. How they fit players in around Tristan Stubbs, DeWald, Brevis, kind of get their balance is slightly off. Like Jason Behrendorff, people were saying he's an absolute world beater. He's Jason Behrendorff. Like he's an okay Australian bowler. So they need a little bit more there. I won't be surprised if they pick up someone like Shreyas Gopal or Amit Mishra. Actually, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they get an old spinner in there just to pad out the numbers. They don't
have any spinners, do they?
Rohit Sharma bowls off spin.
Brevis bowls leg spin.
Yeah, Tilak Varma bowls off spin. So
Tristan Stubbs bowls off spin as well.
But not.
They've got a lot of pie.
But to be clear, like all of these players, they
don't bowl spin.
These things.
Yeah,
I think Daryl Brevis is the one that bowls the most, but it's been in like provincial South Africa cricket. It's quite a leap.
And this is the question. There's been a lot. I was reading through loads of stuff the last couple of days saying that they're likely to go for an overseas spinner in Adil Rashid or Adam Zampa. I'm just not sure that that's going to happen. That is not their MO, and it hasn't been for a long time. So I think they'll try and find value in that spinners market and pick up, as I say, kind of one of the old hands, maybe like Piyush Chawla or something.
On the bright side, Arjun Tendulkar got a ton in the in first class cricket the other day. So they've got a new batter.
He did.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is just what they need. Maybe
So-
he can be. Maybe he's an all rounder now, and he'll be the balance.
Maybe, but it's also a bit around Mumbai Indians.
be.
Don't
That is
don't panic too much. Like last year was kind of an anomaly. So many players were out of form, and I think that the things will be looking back for these guys. They also need
think
some
they're
pace and
rubbish.
depth. You think they're rubbish? I think they're okay.
They're not rubbish, are they? But
Their top order is still pretty good. I think from Rohit Sharma, Kishan, you got Tilak Varma, Suryakumar Yadav, Tim David. I think that's a pretty decent top five. If I'm perfectly honest.
that is all right. And then Stubbs and Brevis are
Yeah,
also
just
quite
not.
good. But they
bowling's
literally
not
don't
there.
have anyone who can
no
bowl.
bowling.
Yeah, but that's because Joffre's back and Bumrah's back. That's
Yeah, but
immediately
then, you
8
have to
overs.
explain how all these players get in a team.
They just get.
They just do.
Yeah, they just do. I think so. I think
Because
if Joffre
Yeah,
and Joffre would be the overseas. Tim David would be the overseas. So there's two.
Yeah.
Then you've got
Brevis,
Brewis.
I always call him Brevis, but it is Brewis, isn't it?
Is it?
Brewis or Stubbs.
Just call him
It's
DeWalt.
No, it's Brevis. Sorry,
Yeah.
I've
Just call
done
him-
a Wagner.
Call him Power
Brevis,
Drill.
yeah.
You've done a
DeWalt.
Wagner. I've done a Wagner.
Brevis, okay, so Brevis and Stubbs.
It's Brevis or Stubbs, I think. And then
Okay.
you've got another
Jason
space for a
Behrendorff.
bowler. Then you've got Berendorf or the mystery overseas spinner that all the journos are saying that they're going to get. So I don't think it's all been lost. I think they typically have good auctions in this kind of thing. And weirdly, some of the teams just let them get certain players, which we've seen in the past where it's kind of what they've got. So not all doom and gloom for them, but if they don't get more bowling, especially domestic bowling, then they're going to be exactly the same position, and they'll probably buy back Unad Kat, which is going to be a mistake.
I think that's a real possibility. I think that is a real possibility. I just cannot see how they get 20 good overs out on the pitch. I just can't see them doing it.
No, it's a problem.
Yeah, but that's why you just have Suryakumar Yadav, and you only need 16 good overs as he makes up for 4.
Max.
Right. LSG is my final team, Lucknow Supergiants. They've got 10 slots to fill, 4 overseas spaces and 23 crore to do it with. So they freed up their funds by ditching Manish Pandey and Jason Holder, which is fairly reasonable, I think, for the money that they cost. They've kept Mark Wood and ditched Dushmantha Kamira, who they picked up to replace him after his injury and him pulling out last year, which was a quite interesting move. So we'll see if he actually rolls out for them this year. But they've got most of the first team, really. Multiple bowling options. I think they've got about 7 players in the first team that could turn their arm over, and they've used all of them at various points last year. But I think a bit of sort of top middle order power is needed, assuming they don't want to play Carl Mayers, which they definitely don't want to do. They've got a bit of room to maneuver in the overseas market, room in their squad to play someone, and room in their first team to play someone, room in their squad to fill. So I think Harry Brook could fit quite nicely for LSG. That's what I would be looking at if I were them, or someone of that mould. And then
he'd look good in the fish scales as well, wouldn't he? I think
he would. Yeah, I think he'd look almost like a fish. They'll also want some cover for Mark Wood, injury wise, you'd expect, and also ideally some death bowling. So, and then otherwise it'll be squad filling. So I can't see them being able to go in for Sam Curran. They've got a bit of money, but probably not. So again, someone like Jai Richardson to be boring, or I think Naveen Ul-Haq could fit quite nicely too. That's be someone I would consider. And then the other thing they might look for is homegrown pace, just in case it turns out that Mohsin Khan was a total fluke last year. But so then
apparently he's not bowled a ball since the last IPL.
Well,
there you go. He's not bowled 1 ball in professional cricket.
Well, quit while you're ahead, right? That's him. I would retire.
Is he injured?
Must be injured, yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't do any research into this, did you? Just found it out and were like, that's interesting.
Well, it's more research than
you've done.
Neither of us. We didn't even know that. So yeah, then you're looking
injuries.
Then you've got Shivam Mavi or maybe Yash Thakur for a death option as well. So there's sort of the few things that they'll be looking at. Where might it go wrong? I think if they fail to get another batter and improve their overseas lot, that is where it could go wrong. If they go for someone a bit boring and like a David Milan, maybe, who doesn't quite have the power that they potentially need at the top of the order. I think that's where it could go wrong if King Legend decides to King Legend. But I think they're in a pretty reasonable place. Lucknow, I'm pretty bullish about their chances.
Fair enough. Speaking of, I bet there are loads of people who have written comments already as I say this about me not mentioning Finn Allen when we were talking about RCB. He could be playing instead of Maxwell. You idiot! You don't know anything about the IPL. That's what they'll be like.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, joke's on them now, isn't it? 'Cause I've called them out. Right, I'm going to get through the last one of my teams pretty quickly here. It's Sunrisers Hyderabad. They will undoubtedly be a big player in the auction because they need a whole batting team. It can't be overstated how much they need to find batters. If they don't, I mean, I was looking at this earlier. They're like the reverse Mumbai Indians in a way. Like they probably don't need another over of bowling. They could probably now field an above average, injuries. Let's assume that nobody gets injured, which is what they do. They could probably right now field 20 good overs of bowling in every game and, be fine. Malik, Natarajan, Bhuvi Kumar, Marco Janssen, Washington Sundar, Aidan Markram could chip him. Like it's Fazalak Faruqi. They've got players that can do the job. They don't really need to worry about that. They don't even need an all-rounder, although it would be useful. And they can afford. They crucially can afford one of the big all-rounders. I think they must.
They can afford all of them, can't they?
They must get Agarwal. If they don't do that, then something's gone massively wrong here. And so that's where I think it probably will go wrong. To answer the final point there, I think they're going to buy back Kane Williamson.
That'd be a disaster.
It's happen, isn't it? It's just what's going to happen.
I can see them buying back Nicholas Puran. I can see them doing that.
I think they'll take Williamson. Williamson's in for like the minimum reserve price, and I can't see. I think if Williamson wanted to play in the IPL and didn't know that somebody was going to bid for him, then I think he would have gone for a lower price and waited for one of the teams who were like, oh, lots of IPL experience. He was good in 2018 or 2017 or whatever. We'll get him in. And he'd have accepted he might go for not that much money like Steve Smith did the year before. 2 crores a lot. I think that's because someone's told him that we're going to buy you. And I suspect that person was Brian Lara. So sorry, Sunrisers fans. You're going to be rubbish again. Ross, who are the last team?
It's the mighty KKR. They've got just over 7 crore to spend. So if you were to translate that into pound sterling, it is fuck all. Priority-wise, they've got an opening batting problem. They also need wicket keepers because they've kind of just forgotten that we need a wicket keeper in cricket. So they are going to target Puran, I think, in this regard. And it's an interesting one because he was okay last year, but didn't really set it like horrendous the season before. I think he averaged less than 10. And so I think maybe teams might just be like, do you know what? He's not worth the hassle. KKR will not see it that way. And if they can get him for 5 crore out of that, I think that'd be useful. They do have loads of spots to fill. They've got 11 spots. But again, they've got a pretty good set of kind of 6 or 7. Domestic wicketkeepers obviously could come into that as well. And they did get rid of Sheldon Jackson and Baba Indrajith. Probably say that wrong. So again, there will be.
It is something, right?
Yeah, and there will be some bits on domestic talent, right? They're going to have to take a punt on a couple of the people who have had good kind of SMAT competitions, but other than that, they've just not got much to work with. And the lineup that they have, they've got to fit in the overseas players, and they've already got Sunderland Orion as the first name on the team sheet next to Andre Russell. They've got Lockie Ferguson, who they've traded in for 10 crore, and they've taken on Shardul Thakur. So opening batters, I think, are going to be the bit that they need to look for, and if they can wicket keep, even better.
So they also want Agarwal and can't afford him.
Oh, there's no chance in the world.
Yeah.
Really. I was surprised they got rid of Ajinkya Rahane actually as a bit of kind of ballast into that team.
I feel like you're better off just taking a punt on some 25-year-old.
Yeah, and that's what I think they're going to do.
A proven failure.
Yeah, they do it. They have bought in Gurbaz, but I'm not sold about Gurbaz, if I'm perfectly honest. But Yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Right. Should we take a break? Then we're going to come back with our
Set by
awkward
set.
shoehorning of our most wanted Western theme into the IPL.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.